One of the things that I've always wanted to do in a space game is to fly through clouds on an alien world. Star Citizen has finally made a possibility of this with patch 3.14 and its city in the sky, Orison. The update recently hit the Star Citizen live servers and naturally brought numerous problems with it. No, that's not a dig against the game, it's just one of those things that seems to happen with patch updates. This one has more than a few issues such as poor performance and various crashes, but this video isn't about those. This video is about the wonderfully updated planet Crusader. But incidentally, if you do want to hear more about the issues and bugs that come with patch 3.14, then do check out the links in the video description. So, to start with, what and where is Crusader? Well, Crusader is a gas giant located in the Stanton star system. The update, as far as I understand it, marks Stanton as feature complete at least in terms of the number of worlds that it contains. The next planned star system is Pyro, but that's something that is further down the line. Crusader then is a gas giant. It is easily, by far, the largest planet within the game. Previously, it wasn't possible to access the world, but now you can fly through its amazing clouds and visit the sky city of Orison. More on the city in just a moment. As I briefly want to touch on the scales that are at work here. The Stanton star system is truly massive. Players are free to travel from world to world as they see fit. And whilst the worlds in Star Citizen aren't a true one-to-one scale, they are nevertheless extremely detailed. Now, when you first load up the game after the latest patch update, you'll be asked which location you would like to start out at. Naturally, I chose Orison, the new port. Orison is a beautifully rendered location. From the moment you wake up with the bedside window view into the clouds to the moment you walk past the exquisite cherry blossom trees, the entire city feels one of peace and tranquility. That's not to say that it doesn't have problems. The performance has been problematic both for me and many others. I frequently got sub 20 frames per second on my Ryzen 7 5800X and RTX 3080. And yes, that's with 32GB of RAM and an M2 SSD. Of course, I also did delete the user folder before trying any of this. Performance improved significantly, however, when I moved down to high settings instead of very high and ran at 1440p instead of 4K. I also switched off a few other settings such as motion blur. And please excuse the sound outside there, my neighbour is building a new driveway, so some bit of background noise you might be able to make out. So with the performance issues resolved, it was time to fully explore the new areas. Much of Orison then offers little in the way of new gameplay loops. Their shops are plenty, numerous social spaces, and a load of great sights to see, such as the massive move-in structural platforms. One thing Star Citizen is pretty famous for is its trains. But Orison, being a cloud city, doesn't actually have a train system. What it does have is its own transportation network in the form of shuttles, which carry players from location to location. Moving away from the main habitation and commercial sector of Green Circle, players can pretty rapidly arrive at the spaceport. Of significant note here, there are some amazing space whales. Yes, I want one. And yes, space whales are a throwback to the 80s and 90s video space games. Many of you will no doubt remember the classic game Starglider 2, one of my favourite space games of the time. So from the spaceport, it's a quick trip into the sky, and this is where we get to see Crusader's brand new cloud tech. So in recent years, cloud tech has become a bit of a fascination for games. Red Dead Redemption 2 of course has volumetric clouds, but they serve a very different purpose. Meanwhile, DCS World added spectacular clouds earlier this year. And then there is Microsoft Flight Simulator, which has fully simulated weather systems and clouds that form and disperse in an entirely natural and realistic manner. These are world-leading games with technology that matches their aims. Star Citizen then is making a bold attempt to enter a similar arena, albeit on a very different scale. So how do the clouds in Star Citizen look? Well, for the first iteration, they look pretty darn good. When you fly near them, moisture droplets start to form on your ship's canopy. The clouds are clearly volumetric, so it's very possible to fly inside of and through them. They do add a sense of scale to the planet Crusader, and that scale is vast indeed. But this has both advantages as well as drawbacks. Its advantages are the clear sense of portrayal of scale. The drawback, however, is that this scale shows how vast the planetary distances actually are, which actually turns out to make the ships feel quite slow overall. It also highlights that the reason ships feel faster on other planets, the reason you can escape atmosphere on other planets, is because the other planets are comparatively tiny. Personally, I find this sense of scale to be very unusual. This image shows that Crusader and the real Earth are very similar in size, and so I feel that it's natural to automatically compare Crusader's clouds with Microsoft Flight Simulator. However, I entirely realise that is a subjective opinion, and you are all of course free to have your own opinions on that. The clouds themselves are also static. Unlike Microsoft Flight Simulator, for example, the clouds do not move, form or disperse. Instead, they remain firmly fixed in place. Generally speaking though, this isn't really too much of a problem. The main issue this presents is that up close the clouds do not have a clearly defined shape, as we are used to seeing in the real world, for example. Instead, the shape of the clouds can only be discerned from distances. Ultimately, how much of a problem this actually is will depend on what you want from clouds in a space game. And talking of space, this is another moment when the whole scale of Star Citizen once again comes into the fore. Travelling away from Crusader up into space and landing on one of its moons is a pleasure indeed. Standing on that moon's surface and looking back at Crusader is very, very impressive. It's not that this is something entirely new to Star Citizen, but rather that the whole process of flying through clouds during that trip does add a nice element. Overall then, the clouds are a great start. More work is needed to bring them up to what I personally envisaged as a gas giant's atmosphere, but I'm sure that CIG will continue to iterate and further develop this technology over the coming years. Although for now, further steps and future development on this have so far been merely hinted. So, brand new clouds, a new atmosphere, and a great new floating city. All fantastic stuff. The biggest downside to these additions, unfortunately, is that they don't come with any new accompanying gameplay. It's hard to deny that Crusader, its clouds and Orison are amazing for sightseeing, because they really are. But if sightseeing really is your goal, then there are certainly other games out there that do a much better job. However, all of this is certainly a step towards potential gameplay. Some great gameplay. It's a move in the right direction, despite Orison itself currently providing no new gameplay directly. Time will tell how all of this develops. So here we are at the end of the video. I really do appreciate that this isn't a full look at the entirety of 3.14, but it is nevertheless the first impressions look at its largest new component. Again, for a full overview of 3.14, do take a look at the link in the video description, where you can find a video from SaltEMike. That then brings us to an end of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.